Jason J. Rock Houston, and this is Chaotic Chris TV, and we got my longtime friend Chris Van Dahl here. And Chris, we're finally talking about Angels in Vain. So,
Woo! What's happening? How are you, Jason?
so let's talk about that. The album comes out, I understand, April 7th. Is that correct?
Yeah, actually, did I tell you that? Did you pick up on that? Because I was supposed to keep it under wraps.
I was on Amazon doing a search because I knew I was going to be talking to you today, and it happened to be listed on there.
Of course you were.
Yeah.
Yeah, April 7th. That's it. So, I mean, this is the first time I've actually officially stated the launch date for the album. So this is pretty cool.
I'm excited. You know, we can actually get physical CDs as well. How cool is that?
Yeah, that is. If you've got something to play it on, or they make nice coasters for your drink.
There you go. Well, I'll tell you, the Angels in Vain, I'm aware of some of the music because, you know, you posted it online a while ago when you started working on this music a number of years ago. And so a lot of it I'm already digging. I can't wait to have a CD so I can listen to my car when I'm driving around. But let's talk about this. So what are your plans once the album comes out? I mean, so I know some of the guys that play on the album, like Stacy, are no longer in the band. So do you plan to do any live shows or just kind of like, we want to get this out? And
you know what? There's always conversation. And the thing that I ought to have learned a long time ago, and I just don't seem to ever get it right, is what to talk about and what not to talk about. You know what I mean? It's like, when's the record coming out? Me back in 2016. Next week, you know?
Yeah.
Look, when this record started, it was a labor of love. Taz and I decided to write a record purely for the sake of just making the kind of music that we enjoyed. And we were like, if people like it, that's great. If they don't, it doesn't really matter because we're not doing any, you know, it wasn't an objective, right? It wasn't like we were on a mission to sell 1 million records or to cars or anything like that. So when so many people took interest in the band, it was just like, kind of blew our hair back because we weren't and then all of a sudden it went from, we've got 4 songs that we've written, to people are clamoring for an album and they want to put us on tour. And they're like, you know what I mean? And we weren't ready for that. I mean, we weren't even actually a band at the time. It was Taz and I wrote and recorded everything at the time, you know. And when Stacy came to us, you know, and he had heard the tracks and he was like, man, we want to be the band. And he got a hold of Eric and, you know, one thing to another. It was a lot. And then when things started getting kind of weird, and they weren't moving quickly enough, and it was like, all right, let's hit the brakes. Let's hit the reset. Let's go back, because this isn't what it was about. It was supposed to be enjoyable. It was supposed to be a, you know, something that we were passionate about. And it became very stressful, which is one of the reasons it's been so long and nobody's been hearing from us. Fast forward to now, you're asking me about shows, and I've got to say, let's just get the record out there.
I hear,
and see what the demand is. I know it's a long answer to a short question, but I think I'll cover a couple of other things, bullet points in there. You know, let's see what happens. You know, my bass player, I say mine, like, you know, I own him. But there is that pride of ownership thing going on. Adam is the bass player for Candlebox. Troy, I mean, Troy's just so he's everywhere. I mean, I think he out with Gilby Clark this week. Right. But our Clark Tantric, like, he does a lot of different stuff. He's a busy guy. Taz is busy in the studio, and he's been doing arena stuff with like Creed Fisher. So if there's enough demand, that's going to be a conversation. But right now, like I said, let's just get the record out there and see.
And what's cool about this is you already got kind of a built-in fan base, and there's going to be people that once the album comes out, you know, next couple of weeks, they're going to be hearing it for the first time and loving it. And I think people are going to start kind of telling other people about it. What's this been like? Because, you know, for years you've been doing the tribute scene and then doing your Steven Tyler thing. What's it like to kind of finally get in the studio and create your own music?
I mean, that's the whole reason this came about in the first place, because I was doing Steven Tyler for Legends in Concert, and then my old band Aeromyth,
Yeah.
and it got to a point where I was like, man, I don't know where I start and Steven ends.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I was doing 11 shows a week.
Yeah.
6 days a week. So
gigging regularly, yeah, quite frequently.
And the seventh was wash your underwear and do it again.
Yeah, yeah.
And that for years I was doing it all over the planet, because I mean, one contract would be 4 months, one contract would be 6 months. I was actually living in Hawaii for almost a year. I was performing out there. I was on a cruise ship for 7 months. I don't know if you can imagine. Yeah, but so I got to the point where it was like, I gotta make some music for me, man. I gotta remember what it is I love about this. And don't get me wrong, it's fantastic doing that. I have nothing but the utmost respect for Steven and for Aerosmith.
Sure.
I love them. I love their music. And wow, what a great way to be able to make a living. You know what I mean? Yeah. Making people happy doing that, playing the greatest rock and roll I've ever written. But I mean, what I loved about it. So that's how
Angel. If I'm wrong, but I'm willing to bet you made more money doing that than the brief time you were in LA Guns, right? Am I right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
LA Guns wasn't about making money.
Yeah.
I can say that. And I think for many years, and if you talk to Tracy,
yeah,
he'll tell you the same thing. It's like, I mean, it's his name. It's his name on the band. It's not about the money. It's about that's who you are and what you do and what you love. If the money comes, that's great. But I'm sure that band has had lean times and they've had some really good times.
Yeah, sure.
But he's still out. I mean, when I was in the band, we were calling it the Fist Fight Every Night tour, because, man, it was like, look, I'm not Phil Lewis.
I got you.
You know what I'm saying? And I know that. I've always known that. So it was a hard thing for a lot of people to accept, because it was a different animal. We should have changed the name of the band. In fact, I think I
remember you were calling it they were calling it the LA Guns, but now see that album, I dug it. It wasn't a bad album. I don't know. I kind of agree. I don't know to sound like LA Guns. You sounded a lot differently, even more different than what you had done with Cherry Street. Now that had to do with the fact that was kind of what Tracy was doing. It's what he wanted to do, so you had to kind of sound like that.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the irony in it, right? I was in a band called Boneyard with Adam, who's our bass player band, right? So I'd left Cherry Street, and I hooked up with the guys in Boneyard, and we were out playing, and Tracy came out to see the band, and he brought Steve and he brought Kelly Nichols, and I came off the stage, and he's like, "Look, man, LA Guns is done." He goes, "But if you're willing to join, everybody will stay and we'll regroup." That was basically the deal. And I went, "Are you serious?" And he was serious. And I was like, "Well, let's see what it means for us to get together and what do we sound like?" And I knew there were internal issues in the band I was with. And I'd already had two of the members come up to me in like the past week saying they were going to quit. Because they were having personal issues with somebody else in the band. And I was like, well, this thing is just about done. So I said, look, if I do this, I only have one condition. I want to bring my guitar player with me. And that was Johnny Cripp.
Johnny Cripp, yeah.
And Tracy said, well, we don't think Mick's going to want to do this, so it shouldn't be a problem. So we got together at Tracy's house, and the first thing we ever wrote together was Give.
Yeah.
And we wrote it on the spot, and it turned out to be one of the best tracks on the album. But I was like, LA Guns, I'm going to make a really kick-ass rock record.
Yeah.
And by the time we were, knees deep in it, Tracy was like into Down, you know what I mean?
And like that, yeah.
Yeah, Tara, Phil Anselmo, you know what I mean? Just Corrosion of Conformity, the stuff he was listening to.
Let me ask you, because again, it was a different sounding album for LA Guns, but I as a fan, I dug it at the time. I was like digging the new singer. Was that kind of a challenge for you to kind of, because you're not used to singing such heavy kind of songs?
No, I think the reason Trace asked me to join the band was because he wanted to take the band in a heavier direction, and
Uh-huh.
Boneyard was kind of like that.
Okay,
Um,
okay.
not quite what LA Guns
Yeah,
became,
yeah,
but more like really heavy Guns N' Roses meets Mother
yeah,
Love Bone. You know, I mean, if I had to try to put labels on it.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So he came out, he saw that, and he went, "Oh, you know, this might be the next step for my," because everybody's trying to evolve, right?
Oh, sure,
It's
sure.
like we all want to, yeah, we want to stay true to our roots, but it's like grow or die. And nobody
And,
wants to be the, the flavor of the moment or
and
whatever.
again,
But
I imagine as a singer, that's a little bit of a challenge for you as far as being saying, you know what, I want to see if I can do this. Because again,
sure,
anybody that followed you, maybe like in Cherry Street, and then they see you in LA Guns, oh, this is the same singer. Wow, he can do more than one thing.
oh yeah, people weren't believing it. They were
Yeah,
like, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, it was a great experience. I wouldn't trade it, but I also know that I wasn't right for it. At
yeah,
least that version of me wasn't right for LA Guns. And I'm a fan. I'm a
yeah.
fan. Look, I was playing LA Guns music
Sure.
back when I lived in Detroit in a cover band before anybody knew who LA Guns were.
Yeah, yeah,
This
yeah.
is ironic. But that's honest truth. I had a friend who would get all these underground cassettes from LA, and I had Jane's Addiction, LA Guns, and, and, and ironically loved it for at least a minute.
Wow,
So
wow, wow.
yeah,
Now, I remember you told me in the past you'd also done an album with a guy that was in Kid Rock's band, and you were having
Kenny,
trouble. Do you think that'll ever see the light of day?
man, the way things have been going, I mean,
Maybe.
it's entirely.
Yeah,
Dude, I'm a little nervous
yeah,
because it seems this past year everything has seen the light of day. Let me show
yeah.
I'm taking here, and I came across this and I was like, okay, this is funny because I hadn't even really given it much thought. And so I got these here. One more thing,
Okay, sure, sure.
I gotta lay hands on, and I know it's around here someplace. I know the suspense is killing you, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah. We'll wait. It's worth the wait.
Do you know where that new album is?
Angels in vain.
Do you know where that new album is? It was sitting on the table over there.
Oh, right there.
Oh, if it was
Right in the corner.
if it was a snake, it would have bit me.
Well,
All right.
I know how that is. Yeah.
All right. This is how weird my life has gotten. This is how stuff's coming back to haunt me. Okay, let me see if I can even. I don't even know if I can do this in order because I just don't know.
Let's see. Okay.
This album came out this year.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. I see. Yeah, Cherry Street. Yeah. I just talked
This
to
album came out this year.
yeah. I
Uh,
just talked to
uh,
Tom Mathers. The interview's going to go up tomorrow.
yeah,
Yeah.
like my sister,
Wow. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. 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 There you go.
That came out, and here's something nobody's seen yet. Did you see it?
Angels in Vain. That's why we're talking to you today. Wow. Yeah, all this stuff is coming out.
Oh,
Wow.
wait, what? Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Well, I mean, three of those discs are out. Angels in Vain is coming out April 7th officially. That's the official launch date for the record. And Pack of Wolves is the band that I did with Kenny Olson.
Wow.
Adam, once again, Adam Curry was the bass player in that band. And we had Shannon Boone from Holland Diablos was the drummer. And I think Shannon went on to join Puddle of Mud. I don't know if he's still with them or not.
Okay. Wow.
He was the drummer in that band. And we probably have 2 albums worth of material I'm sitting on.
Wow. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we released the record because we got involved in so much red tape
Yeah. Yeah.
with the rock camp.
Wow.
So Kenny quit the band. He quit Kid Rock
Wow.
because he just wanted to do this. And the problem is he didn't tell Bob, which is Kid
Kid
Rock's
Rock, yeah.
actual.
Yeah, man.
He didn't tell Bob he was quitting. He just stopped calling back and showing up for rehearsals.
Wow.
So, but it's a pretty good album. It's a little unusual. There's a lot. Maybe
Yeah.
I ran it last year. Weirdly enough, we were on a plane together.
Yeah.
We had each other in years, and he's like, "Hey, we should put out that record. I'll give you a call." And then it never rang. It's like,
wow,
but that was typical. We were in a band together.
Would it be funny if like the Cherry Street stuff and the Angels in Vain just start selling off? I mean, could you imagine having like 2 albums that were charting?
I mean, yeah, it's so weird because I just got the new edition of Rock Nation, and it's like Angels in Vain, Cherry Street, and like I'm flipping pages in the magazine, and
same guy.
There's and there's it's bizarre.
Yeah, I gotta say it's very fitting that this stuff is being released on Perris Records because, as I told you, I interviewed Tom last week. Gave a great interview. Be going up tomorrow, but I understand that's the reason he launched Perris Records is so that you guys could get Cherry Street music out there. That was the initial reason.
Oh yeah, I mean we did everything ourselves.
Yeah.
In that band, that's how the record that label was originally formed.
Yeah.
Record companies didn't want to touch us. And
I remember back in the day seeing
we were selling out
in Metal Edge, Perris Records.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, they, like I was telling Tom, I said, Perris Records even predates Amazon as far as being one of the first places, like a music catalog to sell music, online. Because that was when
true.
The internet was really, young.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, we're going back to like black screens with green writing.
Yeah. And so let me ask you, because I love the artwork. I know you're an artist like Angels in Vain, like the album cover and all this stuff you got up on the Facebook page. From what I understand, you designed all that, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. Love it or hate it, I'm the guy responsible.
Yeah. What came first? Your being artistic like that with drawing and art, or were you a singer first?
I mean, I don't know if I still don't know if I'm a singer. A music fan for sure.
Yeah.
I think well, I mean, like any kid, I was trying to draw race cars that look like triangles with donuts, but I was always into my older brother's record collection as long back as I can remember. I mean, I probably took my first beating for that. So yeah, and I mean, I grew up on, and I call it the good stuff because that's my point of reference, but it's like, his record collection was Led Zeppelin, Van Halen, Black Sabbath, Kiss,
and all that stuff is like 50 years old now, right? I mean,
oh yeah,
Kiss is turning 50.
Well, it would make us that old.
Yeah, I mean, all those great Alice Cooper albums, 50 years old. I mean, Alice is still putting out great new music. I still love what he does.
He's Alice Cooper.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's nothing.
Yeah.
My dogs agree.
Yeah. Now, Chris, let's talk a little about Angels in Vain. I love the track. I posted the other day a cover of the Simple Minds song, Don't You Forget About Me. And, I'm not a huge Simple Minds fan, but I've always loved that song. And I think you really do a great job of, owning the song. And it just, it reminds people what a great song that is.
Thank you. There's a really, I mean, it's brief, but it's a pretty cool story behind that song, actually. I've always identified with it, and I know it's not a rock song per se, but it's such a strong melody. Melody.
Yeah.
And Kaz and I were talking about, maybe putting a couple of covers on the album. Van Halen was famous for that. Like, you know what I mean? They'd always grab, and usually like you wouldn't know that it was a cover or whatever, unless you look backwards. But he goes, what would you want to do? And I told him, I said, all right, man, you're gonna laugh at me, but I'm hearing this. And I told him, and he just stopped and he turned and he looked at me and I go, what, you hate it? He said, no. He goes, I've got a version of it. He goes, I was working it up.
Wow, wow.
Dude, hand to God, I'm telling you the truth. Like, he already had a rough version of that song that he had been working on.
I mean, for a
So,
pop tune, it was always a pretty rocking song, but I think you guys rocked it up even a little heavier.
thank you.
Yeah.
Here's something that you probably don't know. I mean, anybody knows this, it would be you, but that song was originally offered to Billy Idol.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he turned it down.
Wow, wow.
I thought it was kind of cool.
Yeah, that is kind of cool. And so you have some videos already posted for some of these songs on YouTube people can go check out. But do you think once the album comes out, you'll be releasing any new ones?
Depends on how much free time I have because I did all the production on those videos too. And let me tell you, man, there are some hours. Yeah, if the fans of your show have not checked out our videos, and you don't even have to be a fan of the band, but go check out the videos. I'm really proud of them. There's some really, really cool stuff happening in both of them.
I tell people they'll be an instant fan. I mean, I've of course known you for years and followed you, Chris, as you know, but like when the Angels of Vain stuff really started posting that stuff, probably like 5-6 years ago now, when you first started posting them that stuff. I mean, I remember tuning into the first one and I'm like, wow, I can't wait to hear the next one. And I was checking back, as you said, for a while, and you were posting stuff up there for a while, and then things kind of slowed down. But it's like when I heard this album was coming out, in fact, I contacted you about, hey, Chris, I'm doing these Zoom interviews. I would love to do a new interview with you. And you're like, man, you're contacting me at the perfect time. Angels of Vain is about to come out. I thought, yeah, can be doing it at a more perfect time. So why don't you tell us about some of the other songs that are on there?
Yeah, well, man, I mean, who cares? I'm like, what should I say? What shouldn't I say? Again, here we are, right? Like, and kind of the deal. But the publicist company, they're launching this thing. It's going out pretty soon. In fact, I got a press release pre-notification today about it. But I think there are 11 tracks on the album.
There we go.
And we've held some stuff back, so you may get that at some point too. But the album is a really cool and sort of eclectic mix of old school hard rock, but there's some really cool production stuff happening. Our guitar player Taz, he's an amazing engineer. He's done a lot of people over the years, and this is kind of a pet project from him. He's in this band. We wrote this record, two of us.
Like your collaborator, you and him are kind of like the Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley of this.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, I mean, from word go, I mean, I called him up. I said, look, I need to do a record, and he sent me 13 songs. You know what I mean? So that's kind of been our relationship. This is the guy that I moved from Detroit to California with back in the 80s.
Yeah.
So long history together, really long for being 24 years old.
And I imagine that explains why he's the first one you called up to do. Hey, you want to be part of this?
Yeah. I mean, it just seemed to make sense, and I don't know how many people can hang in there the way we have, but this is again now like 5 years later or whatever, and the album's finally coming out. Mind you, 3 of those years were pandemic, and we just couldn't see the point to releasing the record at the time. It's like, if we wanted to get behind it and push it, there wasn't a lot that we could do. So, we said, let's sit on it. But great hard rock album. It's old school with a new school vibe. I really don't know what else to say about it. People
I totally agree. And, talk about, how proud you must have been, like you say, to finally get it out. It's finally, I mean, one of my favorite tracks, I think it might have been the first one you posted. I think it's called 1973. And it's like, kind of like we say, great hard rock. It kind of sounds like stuff that from that time, Queen and Kiss and Alice Cooper, a little bit of all that. Aerosmith, obviously. Great hard rock. And I think this had to be probably a labor of love for you in the sense that you're not in somebody else's band. This is your project. You're calling the shots. It's your music. Like as great as it was, like you said, when you appreciate your time in LA Guns was a different thing, but of course that's somebody else's band too. You're kind of being told what to do. So this is kind of, first time that you're kind of getting to do your own thing.
Yeah, I mean, in a long time,
Yeah.
and it is a labor of love. I mean, again, that's the only reason there'd be any point to keep going with it, and we hope that it's received the way it was intended,
Yeah.
and hope to turn a new generation onto that great classic rock vibe. You know, this record is kind of like an Appetite for Destruction in so far as I don't know if you can remember back to like when you were first listening to that album and you were like,
Sure.
half the time you were wondering if it was the same band
Yeah.
until you became familiar with it. And then you're like, all right, so I see the silver thread running through it. Axl does this and Axl does that. And you know what I mean? He moves all over the place. That happens on this album too. It has that kind of a feeling to it. It's got that sort of cohesiveness where things will move from one song to the next. All the material doesn't sound the same. It's very difficult to pigeonhole this band. You can't say, they're a really heavy rock band or
Yeah.
you know what I mean, classic rock band, or they're a metal band, or they're, you know what I mean.
You're everything. Kind of like Aerosmith is all over the place. Yeah.
We're just musicians, man, and we came from the heart. We said, let's write songs that we like, and we like a lot of different stuff. We've been around for a minute, so we're kind of entitled to, what I mean. We've got a big library to draw from.
As far as the 11 songs on the album, or were they all written in the same like time frame, or was there any, for example, written in the last 2 or 3 years while you guys were?
It's funny. Years ago, Taz and I started writing again, and we were going to call the band Black Beauties, and it just didn't materialize. I don't know if the time was off, timing, or what it was, but we wrote a song, and I think it was called Rabbit Hole at the time. And I found this song, and I slowed it down to half tempo, pulled out the vocals, and completely re-recorded it. And then I sent the idea back to him. And that song actually became a song on this record called Black Blossom.
Oh, wow.
So that stuff has just been, you know what I mean? I mean, we're talking classic era. I mean, we were probably far out of the 80s when that song was written.
Wow. So yeah, I can't wait to hear it. And so I was curious, when it comes out April 7th, people going to be able to go online and hear any of this stuff, or are they going to have to buy the album?
Well, they can come over and listen to it at my place if they want to, but other than that, they're going to have to buy the album for the first 5 minutes, and then someone's going to post the album, and everybody's going to download it for free, because isn't that what happens? That's why musicians are all broke, you guys.
Yeah,
that's why there's not as much good music out there.
Yeah, well, Chris, I really enjoyed talking to you today, and I want to invite you back because I'm a big Angels and Veins supporter. I can't wait to get the album myself, and once I do, I'd love to have maybe you and Taz back together, maybe, or even you yourself, to talk about the songs, the album, once I've had a chance to hear it all, because we want to spread the love for Angels and Veins so people will go out and support the band. And final question for the day. If this album is a success, do you think there may be future albums, or again, does it kind of depend on how this one does?
Well, I mean, we're alive. This album and on another album because we wanted to make an album, and it wasn't about selling it, like I said. So yeah, there's no reason I can see that we wouldn't continue recording and putting records out. Of course, does it make it easier? Is it more interesting? Is it a better feeling doing that, knowing that people are into it? Absolutely. So if you love good hard rock music and you're interested, please go out and support it. Let us know what you think. You know,
Chris.
You got a credit.
Okay, thanks, man. I can't wait to check that out. We'll definitely have you back. Maybe next time Taz could join you. So I will say goodbye, and I'll let you know when this posts. Take care, Chris. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.